Chuka wiped the sweat from his brow with the back of his grease-covered hand. The heat in Suka was always intense, but today it felt like the sun had drawn closer. His tattered, oil-soaked shirt clung to his skin as he leaned over the old pujo he had been working on since morning. His hands were stained black, his stomach ached from hunger, but he kept going. He hadn't eaten since the day before, yet that didn't matter. All he wanted was to finish the repair. Across the dusty street, he saw his younger sister Amaka returning from the local shop. She held a small bag of bread and a sachet of water. "Brother, I brought you something," she said, handing them to him. "Thank you, Amaka," Chuka replied with a tired smile. He broke the bread and gave her the larger piece. "But you haven't eaten all day," she protested. "I'm fine," he said, though they both knew it was a lie. Amaka could see straight through him, but she didn't argue. She had known this version of Chuka, the one who gave up everything for her, since their parents passed in a car accident 10 years ago. She was 9. He was 19. Since then, he had been everything to her. Guardian, parent, protector. Chuka had once dreamed of becoming an engineer. Even as a child, he had a natural gift with machines. But after the accident, he left school to work as a mechanic, making just enough to feed them both and keep her in school. Every kobo he earned went to her books, her clothes, her meals. "Amaka," he said quietly after a long pause, "Uncle Ebuka told me your name appeared on the university admission list." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "Are you serious?" "Yes. University of Lagos. You made it." Tears welled up in her eyes. "Oh my God. I got in? I really got in." Chuka smiled as she wrapped her arms around him tightly, crying on his shoulder. He gently rubbed her back, hiding his own tears. "But how will we pay?" she asked, her excitement fading into concern. "Don't worry about that," he said calmly. "I've been saving." She looked at him, troubled. "But your tools, your workshop, how?" He walked to the corner of the shop and returned with a small, rusty box. Inside were bundles of old, rolled-up Naira notes. He had never trusted banks. That money was meant to expand his workshop, but now it was in her hands. "Use this for your fees," he said simply. "Get what you need. I'll speak to Uncle Ebuka about transport." Her voice shook. "You can't give me all this. What about your future?" "You are my future," he replied. "If you succeed, I have succeeded." She burst into tears again. That night, over a quiet dinner of gari and groundnut, Amaka couldn't take her eyes off him. His face was worn, his hands rough, his body tired. But there was peace in him. He never asked for anything. His life was tied to her dreams. The next morning, they went to the market. She got the basics: cheap clothes, exercise books, a small bag, and a second-hand phone. Chuka bargained with every seller and even borrowed a bit from his friend UCHE to complete the list. A week later, they stood at the bus station. Amaka, dressed in her new outfit, held her bag tightly, nervous but eager. Chuka stood beside her, pride in his eyes. "Don't be afraid," he told her. "Keep your head up. Focus on your books." She nodded, wiping her tears. "Call me when you arrive. Even if there's no airtime, flash me." "I'll make you proud," she whispered. "You already have," he answered. She boarded the bus. He waved until it disappeared. Then, turning around, he walked back to his small shop, feeling both fulfilled and hollow. That day, he made a silent vow. No matter what came next, he would keep going. For Amaka, for the life they dreamed of. But fate had other plans. The decision he made that day would shape both their paths in ways he couldn't foresee. 5 years passed. The sun still blazed over Nsukka, but Chuka's workshop felt still. No customers came that day. He sat alone on a worn bench, hands stained from years of work, mind far away. Then he heard it. "Brother." That voice, gentle, trembling, cut through him. He looked up. Amaka stood before him in her full NYSC uniform. Her face was radiant, matured, her eyes bright with emotion. She took 2 slow steps, then stood tall, lifting her right hand in a perfect salute. Her voice shook. "Sir, this is for the man who gave everything so I could live." Tears streamed down her face. "You're not just my brother. You're everything. My father, my guide, my hope. You gave me books when you had none. You gave me food when you were hungry. You gave me light when I couldn't see. Chuka was still. His lips parted, but words failed him. Slowly, his hand rose in response, returning the salute. She rushed forward, collapsing into his arms, both of them weeping in silence. There was no shame, only gratitude, memory, and love. They sat down, holding hands, words barely needed. I just finished from camp, she said. I came home first. I couldn't wait. I thought maybe you forgot us here, he said softly, half smiling. Never, she replied, firm and clear. You're where I began. I can never forget. He looked at her with pride. You look like a soldier. I feel like one, she smiled. But this uniform is not just for me. It's for you. Every class, every tier, every step. I did it for you. She pulled out an envelope. Take this. From my allowance. Buy new shoes. The ones you wear. They've served long enough. Chuka opened it slowly. Inside were crisp notes. His eyes warmed, not because of the money, but the gesture. Still managing here? She asked, glancing around. God keeps us, he said. Some days are good, others slow. She squeezed his hand. I have something to tell you. He nodded. Go on. During my final year, I interned at Rivers Petroleum in Port Harcourt. They called me last week. After NYC, they want me back. There's a role waiting. It comes with a house. And a car. Chuka blinked, stunned. You're serious? She nodded. They liked my work. First class in petroleum engineering. Not many women achieve it. They want me. Her voice dropped with emotion. Brother, your sacrifice is becoming something. He smiled proudly. You did it. No, she said. We did it. I stood on your shoulders. She leaned closer. I want to move you from here. Once I start, I'll open a proper workshop for you. New equipment, big space, a real business. You deserve it. You made me shine, now it's your turn. Chuka swallowed hard. Overwhelmed. You're everything I ever prayed for. You saved me, she whispered. You were my shelter. I won't leave you behind. I'll keep making you proud. 2 months later, Chuka no longer lived in his cramped wooden room. He had moved into a Maka's new house in Port Harcourt. It was clean, spacious, beautifully furnished. Each morning, he sat in the living room, sometimes watching the news, sometimes just reflecting on how far they had come. One Saturday evening, Amaka returned with a tall man beside her. Her face lit up with joy. Brother, she said, beaming. Meet someone special. Chuka stood up. Good evening, he greeted politely. The man shook his hand. Good evening, sir. I'm Charles. Amaka held Charles's arm. He proposed earlier today, she said. I said yes. Chuka smiled, surprised but happy. Congratulations. That's wonderful. We met 6 months ago, Amaka explained. He's kind, hardworking. I didn't want to say anything until I was sure. Charles gave a short nod. She's a blessing to me. I promised to treat her right. They chatted for a while before Amaka went to the kitchen. As soon as she left, Charles looked around and leaned in. So, you live here with her? He asked. Yes, Chuka replied calmly. Been here a while. Charles raised an eyebrow. She never mentioned that. No offense, sir, but isn't it strange for a grown man to stay in his sister's house? Chuka didn't react with anger, only surprise. Before he could answer, Amaka reappeared, having heard what was said. Baby, she said quickly, he's only here temporarily. You know what he did for me? I'm just helping till his shop is ready. Charles said nothing. He only nodded, his expression unreadable. But Chuka had noticed the change in his tone, the flicker in his eyes, and the shift in Amaka's voice. That night, he lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. His heart felt heavy, but not with joy. Something had shifted. He wasn't angry, only silent. Amaka was building her future, and he had always wanted that. But Charles's words echoed in his mind, growing louder in the quiet. Chuka lay awake, staring at the ceiling, Charles's words echoing in his mind. How can a full-grown man be living in his sister's house? It hit deeper than he expected. The home that once felt warm now felt like borrowed space. Deep down, he knew things would never be the same. Weeks passed since Charles's visit. Chuka remained in the guest room, quiet and careful not to be in anyone's way. He woke early every morning, swept the compound, handled minor repairs, and kept to himself. He never asked for anything, yet the distance between him and Amaka kept growing. She no longer shared laughs with him in the evenings. Her cheerful stories about work had stopped. These days she came home, walked straight to her room, and stayed locked away, mostly whispering on the phone. Some nights, her voice carried out, not from joy, but from arguments. One evening, she returned late. Chuka sat alone in the living room. When she entered, her smile was faint, her steps tired. "Welcome, Amaka," he greeted. "Good evening," she replied without looking at him. "How was work?" he asked gently. "Fine," she said, short and distant. The silence after her response said more than words. Chuka noticed it, but chose not to speak further. The warmth between them had faded. Later that same day, while Amaka was in her room on a call, Chuka sat with Charles in the living room. The TV was on, but the room was quiet. "Sir," Charles began casually, "have you thought about when you'll start your workshop?" Chuka looked at him. "I'm waiting." Amaka said she would help find a good space. "I trust her." Charles leaned back. "Sure, but don't you think it's time you started planning to move out? I mean, Amaka and I are preparing for marriage. We'll need privacy. No offense, but it's not ideal having another man, even if he's her brother, living here." The words hit Chuka hard, but he remained calm. "I understand," he said softly. Just then, Amaka stepped out. "What are you two discussing?" she asked. "Nothing serious," Charles replied with a quick smile. "Just man talk." Chuka stood up quietly. "I'll be in my room." That night, sleep refused to come. He turned from side to side, thoughts circling endlessly. What once felt like home now felt like he was in someone else's space. His mind drifted to the past, selling his motorbike to pay Amaka's school fees, working through illness to buy her textbooks, skipping meals so she could eat. Now someone else had stepped into her life, and he felt like an outsider in the very story he built. A few days later, Amaka came into his room and sat by the door. She looked serious. "Brother," she said quietly, "I need to talk." Chuka sat upright. "I'm listening." She looked at her hands. "Charles and I are planning the wedding. He thinks it's best if you move out before then." Chuka felt something inside him break. He didn't speak at first, just nodded slowly. "I'm not pushing you out," she added quickly. "I just want peace. You know how it is when marriage starts. I'll still support you with the workshop, but I need your understanding." Chuka looked at her for a moment. "When do you want me to leave?" "In 2 weeks if that's okay." "All right," he said. "I understand." "Thank you, brother. I appreciate you." He didn't reply. After she left, he sat there in silence. It wasn't the request that hurt. It was who made it. 2 days later, Chuka sold his old workshop. The price was far below its value, but he needed the money quickly to rent a room and start something small. Waiting for a better offer wasn't an option anymore. That evening, he returned to the house. Amaka was on the couch scrolling through her phone. "Sister," he said as he sat a day, "I sold the shop." She looked up. "You did?" "Yes. I'll get a small room and maybe sell engine oil or do mobile repairs." She nodded. "That's a smart move." "There's something else," he added. "I didn't put the money in a bank." She frowned. "Why not?" "You know I've never liked banks," he replied. "Besides, I don't even have an account. The money's safe in my room." She shook her head. "That's not good. Things are different now. Tomorrow, we'll open a bank account. You can't keep cash in the house anymore." Chuka smiled faintly. "Okay. I'll go with you." That night, Amaka and Charles went out. Dressed well and laughing, they drove off for a night of fun. Chuka laid on his bed, exhausted but hopeful. Finally, he had something to build on. But in the quiet of the night, everything changed. 3 men crept into the compound. They moved silently, slipping into Chuka's room. "Where's the money?" one demanded. Chuka woke with a start. "Please, I don't have much." Before he could finish, One of them grabbed his bag and spilled it open. Bundles of cash fell out. "No, please," Chuka begged. "That's all I have." They ignored him, scooped the money, and disappeared before anyone could react. He sat there on the floor, stunned, broken. The pain weighed heavy, but he didn't scream. He didn't call out. He just sat still, his head in his hands, tears falling silently. "God, why?" he whispered. "Why now? What did I do to deserve this? Just when I thought I was getting back on my feet, everything's gone again." The next morning, Amaka and Charles returned, looking worn from their night out. As they stepped in, they saw Chuka sitting on the couch. His eyes were red. He hadn't slept. "Brother?" Amaka asked, stepping closer. "What happened?" Chuka looked up slowly. "They came last night." "Who?" "Robbers," he said. "They came into my room. Took everything. The money from the shop. It's gone." She gasped, hands flying to her mouth. "Oh my God! How?" "They knew where it was," Chuka said quietly. "I begged them. They didn't care. They hit me and took everything." Charles stood still for a moment, then gave a half smirk. "So, you're telling us you kept that kind of money in your room?" Chuka said nothing. "No bank account?" Charles continued. "You hid your life savings in a nylon bag like a village man? Seriously?" Chuka stared at him, hands trembling. He felt something rising inside him. Then he stood up slowly. "What did you just say?" "You heard me," Charles said. "Just being real. You're not a child. You should know better." That was it. Chuka's patience snapped. "How dare you talk to me like that?" he roared. "Who gave you the right to disrespect me in this house? A man with nothing, no home, no job, sleeping in a woman's house, and you dare insult me." Charles stepped closer, his voice rising. "Watch what you say, old man." But Chuka wasn't finished. "You're a disgrace," he said, voice calm but cutting. "A boy with no roots, no dignity. Your parents clearly failed at raising a man, because if they hadn't, you wouldn't stand here and speak this way to me." Charles clenched his jaw. "You think you're special because you're her brother?" "I'm not just her brother," Chuka snapped. "I'm her father, her mother. I raised her. I went without so she could have something. I walked miles barefoot, worked myself sick, and gave up my dreams so she could live hers. And now she brings in someone like you, someone with no manners, no backbone." Amaka stepped between them, her voice cracking. "Please stop." Chuka turned to her, pain flooding his eyes. "And you let him speak to me like this? After everything I gave up for you? After all the days I went hungry so you could eat? The nights I slept on cold concrete just so you'd sleep well? And you say nothing while he insults me in your house?" She was silent. There was nothing to say. "I was your shield," Chuka whispered. "Your safety. Now you stand there with a stranger, against your own blood." Amaka tried to speak, but he raised his hand gently. "Don't call me brother again." With that, he walked to his room. In silence, he packed what little he owned. 2 shirts, slippers, his phone charger. That was all. As he zipped the bag, he muttered, "One day, you'll remember what you've done." He passed Charles in the living room without a glance. At the doorway he paused, looked back at Amaka, and said quietly, "I hope he makes you happy. I won't be here to find out." Then he stepped out. The sun was just rising, but he felt no warmth. He didn't know where he was headed, but he knew staying was no longer an option. What had been taken from him wasn't just money. It was trust, dignity, belonging. Inside, the room was silent. Amaka stood frozen, her face wet with tears. She had never imagined it would end like this. She believed things would settle, that somehow, her brother would forgive and move on. But he was gone, and his words echoed in her mind like a curse. Suddenly, Charles spun around, no longer calm. "So this is what you wanted?" he snapped. "You just let him disrespect me like that? Are you trying to ruin this relationship?" Amaka blinked in confusion. "What are you talking about?" "You stood there. You didn't defend me. You let him humiliate me. If this is what our marriage will look like, maybe it shouldn't happen." Her voice cracked. "He's my brother. And that's your excuse?" Charles shot back. "A broke man, living under your roof, and you protect him over me? What kind of woman are you? Amaka backed away, stunned. He raised me. And I'm the man you're about to marry, Charles growled. You owe me now. Not him. Me. She wiped her face. I haven't forgotten that. Then act like it, he shouted. You embarrassed me. Made me look like a fool. Next time I walk away. Enough. Her scream sliced through the room. Her hands trembled, her eyes blazing. Say one more word about my brother, and I swear it'll be the last word you say in this house. Charles froze. You stand here talking about pride? A man who lives under my roof, eats my food, wears clothes I pay for? You insult the very man who gave me a life to build this one with you? You must be sick. Mad, even. He tried to respond, but she didn't let him. You think I'm desperate to be with you? That you're some gift I should be grateful for? Let me make this clear. If anyone is walking away from this relationship, it's me. Charles stood motionless, his arrogance melting away. He didn't expect this version of Amaka. You've been walking around like a king in a castle you didn't build. And today, you opened your mouth to insult the only man who's ever truly sacrificed for me. You've crossed a line. Speak his name again, and you'll see what I'm capable of. Charles blinked. His voice softened, almost trembling. Baby. I didn't mean it. I was just upset. I love you. Please don't let this break us. Amaka stared at him, her face wet, her soul tired. I was hurt, Charles whispered. I reacted badly. I didn't mean those things. Please forgive me. Don't leave me. He moved closer, touched her face with rehearsed tenderness. His words now gentle, wrapped in apology. You're everything to me. You're my future. Let's forget this happened. We can fix it. Just don't go. Amaka said nothing. Her heart still throbbed from what had happened. But just like before, his voice calmed her anger. His soft tone dulled the edges of her pain. She stood there, caught between memory and guilt. And slowly, she allowed herself to be pulled back in, not by love, but by weakness for words that had no weight. Charles knew what to say. He always did. But somewhere far from there, Chuka had made up his mind. He couldn't stay in the same city. The wound was too fresh, too deep. Staying near would only make the pain louder. He needed distance. Healing. A place to start again. He remembered an old friend from years ago, someone who once said, if you're ever in Lagos, look for me. It wasn't much, but it was enough. With only a few naira left in his pocket, he boarded a bus. The journey was long, but his heart was heavier than the road. Lagos hit him like a wave. Big, fast, chaotic. The air buzzed with movement. Cars honked, voices shouted. Life rushed past him from all directions. It was nothing like Nsukka. But maybe that was what he needed. A place where no one knew his name. A city full of strangers and second chances. He stepped down from the bus with one bag and a bruised spirit. But deep inside, a tiny spark remained. The hope that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end. He asked around for directions. Some people were helpful, others simply ignored him. But he kept moving, determined. Eventually, he found the street. It was quiet and beautiful, lined with large houses behind tall gates. When he reached the one Emmanuel had described, he knocked. A security guard opened the gate and eyed him cautiously. Please. I'm looking for Emmanuel. He lives here, Chuka said. The guard studied him for a moment, then told him to wait. A few minutes later, Emmanuel appeared. He looked different. Clean, well-fed, calm. His clothes were sharp, his haircut fresh. But when his eyes landed on Chuka, something shifted. Chuka? What are you doing here? He asked, clearly surprised. Chuka gave a tired smile. You gave me this address when you visited Nsukka. You told me to come if I ever needed help. Emmanuel rubbed the back of his neck. Right, I did. But why are you here? What happened? I came to Lagos to start over, Chuka replied, stepping forward slightly. I'm not asking for much, just help finding a small job. Anything. I'm even willing to wash cars. I just need a chance. And I was hoping you could let me stay with you for a short time until I find my footing. Emmanuel's face tightened. Chuka, it's not that I don't care. I remember we were friends, but things have changed. I can't help you right now. Chuka's smile faded. What do you mean? I stay here, yes, but the house isn't mine. It belongs to my wife. She takes care of me now. I don't even have a job at the moment, and there's no space here. She wouldn't be okay with someone else moving in. Chuka stared at him in silence, the weight of rejection pressing down on his chest. At least greet me first, he said quietly. Have you forgotten we were friends? Emmanuel shifted uncomfortably. Don't take it the wrong way. I know this city is tough. Try mechanic garage, offer to help, build from there. But you can't stay here. I'm really sorry. Chuka gave a slow nod. All right. Thank you. Without another word, Emmanuel turned and walked back into the house. The gate closed behind him. Chuka remained at the gate, unsure where to go next. His last thread of hope had just snapped. Alone again in a city that didn't know or care who he was, he turned back toward the street and blended into the noise and motion of strangers. He had no shelter, no food, no bed, no one, but he kept walking. That night, he slept under a bridge, using his bag as a pillow. The road above roared with vehicles. His shirt, thin and worn, couldn't keep out the cold. Mosquitoes bit through his skin, and the air stank of oil and smoke. He couldn't cry. His pain had settled too deeply for tears. Every time he closed his eyes, his sister's face returned. The memory of betrayal, the slap, the robbery, they haunted him. Now, even the one friend he had left in the world had turned away. He lay there asking God the same silent question again and again. Why? Before dawn, a patrol officer kicked his leg. You can't sleep here. Move along. Chuka stood weakly, picked up his bag, and walked off. His body ached, but his spirit carried the heavier load. As the city stirred to life, shops opened, students walked to school, workers rushed past him with purpose. But he had nowhere to be, nothing to do. The sun climbed higher while his hunger grew worse. He hadn't eaten since that small piece of bread on the bus to Lagos. By noon, he found a bit of shade near a car park and sat, watching traffic go by. His head throbbed. He began to doubt his choice to come here. Maybe he should have stayed in Port Harcourt. Maybe begging his sister once more would have been wiser. But he had chosen. And now, there was no turning back. Across the road, he noticed a small mechanic workshop. 2 young men were working on a car while an older man stood nearby giving instructions. Something inside him stirred. He got up, crossed the street, and waited near the entrance. One of the workers noticed him. Yes? Who are you looking for? Chuka cleared his throat. Good afternoon. I'm sorry to disturb. I'm a trained mechanic. I just arrived in Lagos and I'm looking for any kind of work. I'm ready to help in any way. I just need a chance. The older man turned to him. You said you're a mechanic? Yes, sir. I've been doing this for over 15 years. Where are your tools? The man asked. I lost everything. I only have myself. The man looked at him again. Where do you live? Nowhere, sir. I slept under a bridge last night. There was a pause. The man studied him. What's your name? Chuka. Do you know how to fix engines? Yes, sir. Gear problems? Yes. Alignment? Yes, sir. Can you work all day without complaints? Yes, sir. I'm ready. The man gave a small nod. All right. You can start today. No pay yet. Prove yourself first, and I'll find something for you. Chuka bowed slightly. Thank you, sir. I'm grateful. We start at 6:30 a.m. Don't be late. I'll be here. The man added, if you have nowhere to sleep, use that bench near the generator room. Chuka looked at the bench, nodded again. Thank you. That night, he lay on the bench, his bag under his head, the stars peeking through the cracks in the roof. Back in Port Harcourt, Amaka sat in her living room, glowing with excitement. Her loan had finally been approved. After months of saving and working overtime, she had enough to buy her own home. Her dream, her freedom. Charles walked in, yawning. She looked at him and smiled faintly. I have good news, she said. I'm buying a house. My loan was approved. Instead of celebrating, Charles frowned. A house? You said you didn't have money when I needed 40 million for my business. I didn't lie, Amaka replied. This is something I've worked for, and I want to invest in my future. He stepped closer. So you'd rather buy a house than support your future husband's business? Amaka's smile vanished. Are you angry because I want to buy a house with my own money? Yes, Charles said flatly. If we're going to marry, what's yours is mine. That money could build more than a house. Amaka gave a bitter laugh. So if I don't give you money, we can't get married? Is that what this is about? Charles shrugged. It's about support. If you believed in me. Enough, she cut in. You live in my house, eat my food, pay nothing. And now you're demanding money like it's owed to you? My brother warned me. I should have listened. Don't bring your brother into this. I will bring him in. He was right. You manipulate. You guilt trip. You talk sweet but do nothing. You're not in love with me. You're in love with what I can give you. Charles tried softening his tone. I didn't mean it like that. I'm just under pressure. Amaka wasn't moved. If you want to leave, the door's open. If you stay, know your place. Don't raise your voice at me again, and don't you ever ask me for my money. Charles stood there, realizing he'd lost control. She wasn't the same woman anymore. She knew her worth now. He was just a boy still pretending. Meanwhile, Chuka had now spent almost 3 months at the workshop. He arrived early, left late, and earned quiet respect. One hot afternoon, he was alone when a black SUV pulled in. The driver lowered his window. Is your boss around? Chuka stepped forward. No, sir. But I can help. What's the issue? The car's shaking. I think it's the fuel pump. Chuka checked the engine, ran a few tests, and confirmed it. I can fix it now, sir. Please do, the man replied. After 45 minutes, the engine purred like new. The man returned around 5 p.m. Is it ready? Yes, sir. You can test it. He got into the car, started it, and smiled. You really know what you're doing. Thank you, sir. But then something caught the man's attention. He turned off the engine, stepped out, opened the back door, and reached under the seat. His hand hit something. A large brown leather bag. He pulled it out and unzipped it. The cash was still there. All of it. He stared at Chuka, who stood calmly nearby. You're the only one here today? He asked. Yes, sir. You didn't touch it? No, sir. I didn't even know it was there. The man stared at him, then slowly smiled. You don't know what you've just done. He handed Chuka a business card. I'm Chief Damien Okuina. I own several companies. I've seen all kinds of people, but today, I've met someone rare. Chuka looked at the card, hands trembling. Come to my house tomorrow by 4 p.m. Let's talk about your future. He got into his car and drove away. Chuka stood alone, holding the card. He didn't cheer. He simply looked up and whispered, God, you see me. Because for the first time in a long while, someone else had truly seen him too. Not as a poor mechanic but as a man of honor.